All right, so to begin, we have a reading from the Big Book, page 23, Paul. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. If you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc of an alcoholic's drinking bout that an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of a man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Once in a while, he may tell the truth. You can end there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for having us here. If you're not familiar with this platform, it's sort of based on a recognition of the statement from the Big Book on page 64, being convinced self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. We will now look at self's, its common manifestations, and then the next paragraph, resentment. So resentment, if you follow that trail, self is what has defeated us, and resentments are a manifestation of self. And if we are the us and we're not the self, why do we call the self's manifestations ours? Yeah, and I would say that's pretty much the root of the problem, is an identification with what has defeated us, really. And if that identification continues, its means and its expressions of the defeats may change, but the defeats will not change. Yes, because you'll be living sort of in the bondage of self. You'll be doing all your athletic activities with too tight of a uniform, so to speak. There's going to be something that's going to be causing like an irritation or chafing or discomfort and restlessness. And usually we don't have a clear diagnosis, so we make up shit, and then we think we find a solution to that shit, which tends to further the problem. So this is just a simple recognition of the diagnosis of the exact nature of the wrong, and to do the working steps with that spirit and see if they work a little bit. Yeah, see if they work better than they did when you looked at them as yours. Yeah, because it's going to be difficult to get out of resentments if you keep calling them yours. It just doesn't. You've noticed, I hope, through your own observation, that a resentment and my resentment is quite different. Yeah, one has a much longer life expectancy, and it tends to cause a lot more havoc. It's basically similar misperception or seeing things in a certain skewed way caused the reaction that we call a resentment. But the effect and the weight of it is completely determined by the my before it. Yeah, the my resentment or the my fear. Obviously, it just takes 1 second to see the difference. Just look at, money and then my money. I want everyone here to have a lot of money, but I don't want anyone here to have any of my money. The my changes the whole meaning of how I travel with the idea of money. Who's playing that role of my? Yeah, we are. who's directing that role of myself? Yeah. Yeah. It's simple. And we just keep pounding away at it, because when this became obvious to me, it came along with a lot of other statements, unsaid, but really felt. And one of them was, hey, if you don't see this, you're going to be looking from its effects. Yeah. So if you don't see the act of bondage, you're going to be acting from a point of being bound. Yeah. And obviously that's going to change your whole temperament and your attitude and outlook. You're going to try to be looking to get out of something all fucking day in some respect. This is questioning, are you in that something? And if you're not in that something, it opens up all new possibilities that cannot be available when you're identified as self. It just limits the possibilities. Your now idea of freedom is limited to the possibility of being free as self. And that hasn't worked, has it? No. But what happens if you see you're not self? You can be free from self, as it says in our book. Please relieve us of the bondage of self. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't call the self ego. I don't, because I know people feel like they have an ego and they feel like they've lost an ego. What's that feeling of the one who has and lost? I think that's self more. Yeah. So I'm not, I don't use the term ego much. I get, and sense, and self is a sense. And that sense is furthered and reinforced by the narrative and the claiming of what's happening to be happening to you. So all the seeing, you're construed as the seer, feeling, feeler, tasting, taster, doer, doing, doer. Yeah, this is why we have a difficult time recognize something did through us what we would have never done by ourselves. We can recognize something's doing for us now that we couldn't do for ourselves, but we're not recognizing the lower power was doing a lot of stuff through us that we would have never done by ourselves. Yeah, I don't see how we miss it, other than there's a strong act of being identified as the lower power. Therefore, its behavior, you call your behavior. Yeah, its actions, you call your actions. And how are you going to be free from those actions if you keep calling them yours? I see people in a long-term sobriety still carrying those chains of regret and remorse and shame and guilt based on what they did 38 years ago. They didn't do it in the first place. They were compelled to do it. They were driven by something to do it. When do they get relief? When do they get released from that bondage? Yeah. AA is going to produce effects no matter what. Yeah. It will at least keep you sober a day at a time, which is a huge effect. But you can be sober and still under the great influence of bondage of self. And so now, yeah.
Yeah. I think you should be a motivational speaker.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Get that.
Pardon, Paul, you're muted.
There's no need to be a motivational speaker when there's motivational speaking. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's the freedom from the bondage of self. I'm in the act of motivational speaking, but there's never a motivational speaker. That's the good fucking news. If there was a motivational speaker, you wouldn't be paying me enough to show up here. If it was a motivational speaker, hey, I don't feel well today as the speaker, so therefore no message can come through the speaking. Well, this isn't the case. This is not my experience. My experience is I showed up based on being put in positions of service, completely feeling having no quality or ability to deliver that message, and the message delivered itself through me. That's been my experience for 30-something years. So I see a very clear difference between us and self. Yeah. And I hope I can help in some way for that to be seen by you, because I feel it's going to promote a traveling lighter through whatever the situations you are in this life. Yeah. I don't have an answer to your problems. I have an answer to the one who thinks they have the problems. That's the answer. Yeah. Yeah. So self can't get out of self. So if I'm in the act of being identified as it, I'm not in the act of not being identified as it. So I'm in the act of being identified as it, and therefore all my movements are as it. So basically, a lot of the attempts I'm trying to do to get relief and get better are actually can be categorized as self trying to get out of self. That's why they're not working. That's why they may work in controlled environments, let's say at a meeting, but they're not working in your active life. Yes? Because your condition is still super conditional, where if you are that spirit's condition, it outshines conditions and circumstances. It outshines conditions and circumstances. Yeah. So here you go. I'm happy you're here. We try to stay on this point because there's so many people who can tell you every meaning of every word in the book, know how many periods and commas and stuff like that. We're not into that right now. We're into an accurate diagnosis of the exact nature of the problem. Yeah, so that you can realistically believe that you can be free from self. You're not going to be free from self as a self. So there you go. I'm very happy again to be here. It's such a pleasure to be used by something greater than myself. It's the greatest pleasure I've ever had in this life. And I've had thousands of opportunities to be used, and I'm forever grateful for that. So, yeah. Anybody want to ask something or
just a little bit of housekeeping. We've got some Zoom bombers, so you can't unmute yourself. You cannot start your video. But if you have a question, raise it in the virtual hand, and then Jacob will call on you. He'll ask you to unmute yourself. Excuse me.
Yeah, Jane has her hand up. Thank you, Kaiser. 1 second. There you go.
Hey, Paul, Alcohol Jane. Is it an actual thing, die to self? I was looking at the St. Francis prayer and it says, it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. And I seem to keep hearing the goal is to die to self. Is that possible?
No, there isn't a self. So you lose interest in it. And therefore you lose interest into dying to self. Self would love to die to self. You'd be super absorbed in it completely. Yeah. Yeah. The dying to self is its loss of relevance is like a death to it. And that's based on you losing interest in it. And self cannot lose interest in self. That's just more interest in self. Yeah. So this is more about a loss of interest. Just like that word, it pivots everything in the big book near the third step, which is we lost interest in self. That's the key. Yeah. And then everything else starts to happen. All new possibilities show up, and the requirement is loss of interest in self. I do not believe you can lose a sufficient amount of interest in self as self. I just can't. I don't see it. Yeah, I just don't see it. So if I see self as other or foreign to me, it's very easy to lose interest in it because it's not you. Yeah. And mostly our whole head is its way it looks, and what it looks at is basically it's about me. If you take the biggest thing that it's constantly going over, which is you, and see it as not you, there's going to be a huge migration of interest from that dead horse into a living, rodeo, so to speak. Yeah. I've watched it. I've seen it. I've observed it in my own life. Yeah, completely. I saw the whole change. As soon as I saw that self was foreign to me, the possibility of being free from it became available. Before, the possibility of being free was as a self. So I was bonded, and therefore my pursuits for freedom became other forms of bondage. Yeah. Yes. That's the trick. You have to see the joke's been on you the whole fucking time. And then you start laughing about it because you've been the butt of the joke. You have. All your attempts to get out have reinforced that you are in. If self has been there writing the script, its idea of escape is bondage. Yeah. You get bound to it with its pursuits of escape. Yeah. So if this doesn't work, just like they do now. Yeah. Jesus Christ, because of self, things aren't working. So you think, well, I'm going to just synthesize AA with Buddhism and then some Kabbalah, stick this in there, some yoga. We're going to just add shit and see if it'll work. Yeah. And so it's like a Frankenstein monster based on the problem isn't the Frankenstein monster, it's Dr. Frankenstein. It's you. Yeah. You don't need a new radical Buddhism. You don't. You need to lose interest in self. And you can't do that as self. When you lose interest in self, the whole board reconfigures. Yeah. You don't know what a role we play here. Maybe you do. We play a huge role. As the Course in Miracles captures it, we give everything all the meaning it has. And if we, the us that's doing that, is taking itself to be a self, then all our meaning is going through the filter of self. So we see everything in a self-centered lens. We see spirituality in a self-centered lens. We see everything as a self-centered lens. This is not about getting into something. It's losing interest in self. Yeah. And maybe you'll find you're just fucking completely okay right now. Yeah. Just as you seem to be when that judge, that critiquer gets lifted. Yeah. We have there's a lot of ways they use this idea of policeman and thief in spirituality, some ideas of spirituality. So for me, I grew up around 4.5 or 5. The voice that took the head over was a policeman. It made me really uncomfortable. I tried to be perfect. I never cursed. I was a good boy. It fucking drove me to drink, basically. Then I drink, and then the thief took over, and I got some relief from policemen, and it got to a point, the relief was from the policeman was so important that I would pay any consequence tomorrow not to feel the policeman today. So I lived seemingly as a thief, just getting loaded. All the responsibilities of being a family member were taken off me because I was the black sheep. It brought a lot of fucking relief, the thief, but it almost killed me. And it became another form of bondage. So then I get sober. And what's the first few years of sobriety? The policeman shows up again. I've got to be perfect now. I've got to do this. I got to do that. Ba-da-da. And now there's no access. There's no recourse to go back to the thief. That fucking is over. Yeah. I can't stand the policeman. I can't live directed by this. It's like living with a big stick up my ass. I'm not enjoying the relief that recovery is bringing me. It's becoming like a fucking fundamentalist and shit. Yeah. So then what brought me relief from both voices was I'm not either of them. That's what brought me relief. And that's why I'm here. And I'll be here every freaking week because this is my experience. My relief from the policeman and the thief was seeing I'm neither. Yeah. That which is talking to me is not me. Why is it spending so much time talking to me if it's me? It's trying to convince something to do what it's telling it. Yeah. You don't feel something is foreign in you that's talking to you all day? It's trying to convince you to do this or do that. It's like someone's inside you having a conversation with you all day. Sometimes people get to a certain point in their lives, they just lose it and they're talking out loud to themselves. The thing's talking to them out loud. I come into a room and there's a conversation, there's only one person in there. It's just, they just gave up all pretense that the thing is like they're having a... Who is it? Who's the us that's listening to that which is talking? It's not that which is talking. That which is talking is to us. What is that us? The best thing we got close to it in recovery is spiritual condition. Yeah. In other words, not a condition in form. Yeah. So this thing talks to you as you. Yeah. It doesn't seem like we've been able to defeat it with that condition in place. What happens if it talks to you as not you? That has worked for me. Yes. Just the changing of the underlying condition. Something is talking to me as me. Yeah. I've done tons of shit based on that basis. Let's change the basis. Maybe something is talking to me that is not me. Yeah. This worked, and it's working to this day. Yeah. That's what we humbly offer, basically, really. Yeah. It's a new basis. Instead of listening to that which is talking in your head as you start questioning it as not you. And then all of that past you, when it shows up, you bring the step 6 and 7 and have that past you get reconfigured. Yeah, because it ain't you. It wasn't you and it won't be you. Something is talking to you. The you is not what's talking. Something is talking to us. Yeah. And why we're familiar with it and we identify with each other, because for us as alcoholics, we've been talked to by the same fucking thing. Extreme self-centeredness that mutated into another form called alcoholism. Yeah. So all of us get together here and we have an identification, not with our haircuts or this or that, is because the same thing that was talking to us was talking to you, and that voice has defeated us. Yeah. So let's reveal it. Let's show the emperor with no clothes. Let's bring out the wizard behind the curtain in the Oz and just take a look. And maybe, just maybe, it's not you. And then there'll be a loss of interest in it. And then that interest will enrich your day instead of constantly being used to enslave you to the day. That's simple. Very, very simple. Then we go through all these things here at the talks, but that's the basic premise. Yes? You can't, that which is playing God is not you. You cannot quit playing God. You see that which is playing God is not you, and then the interest and the power that we are, that it's using to defeat us, is removed. The AK-15 is taken out of its hands. Yes? There's a loss of interest. It's happened. I've watched it in me. I'm no different than any other run-of-the-mill addict alcoholic. But I live a day at a time as if the problem does not exist as me anymore for a long, long time now. And you know why I live like that? Because the problem does not exist as me. It's not something that was made up or changed through great effort. It was a simple recognition. The problem does not exist as me. It can exist for me, yeah, but it does not exist as me. Those days are over. Yeah, there's no way. So, whatever works for you. But man, if it's not working for you, question. Yeah, I don't have any questions because it's working for me. I don't. You know, I don't care if someone else says tons of shit at a meeting. I'm not into, I don't care. Yeah, what if it's working for you? Great. It wasn't working for me. The bondage of self continued in sobriety. Yeah, so there.
Paul, is there a way to reach you so I can answer a question you asked me a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, just call. My phone number is on the website, I think.
Is it?
You may, I may not answer the phone, but you
I
can.
don't care. I just want to leave you a message. I don't want to interrupt everybody else.
All
I
right,
can direct message her your number, Paul.
all right, good.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jacob.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Yes, all right.
Yeah, we don't have any other hands right now. Anybody have any questions or anybody want to come in and share? Raise your virtual hand there.
Well, that's awesome. Then you could just, if you're not familiar with the inventory, now do a little example and do one on you're resenting someone or resenting someone, and just see if which one produces more traveling lighter than the other. Yes.
Yeah.
There's so much shit. See, you may have the same baggage in life, but a lot of shit can be unpacked out of it. Yeah, really. We may be carrying shits that could have been left behind. It can be left behind now. Yes.
Oh yeah. Hey, we got Gary. Has his hand up.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Gary.
I got a question about step 4. I've
All
been working on step 4, the inventory, and actually wondering how to create a form that might help people recognize selfing. And I know you've written books. I've looked at this under arrest and gotten some good pointers out of it. But I'm struggling to put the concept of, I mean, this is your life's work, but to put the concept of self or selfing in a inventory set of instructions, you know, like the Joe and Charlie stuff. I did have a feel like it'd be like if there was someone that could write it in a few words or tweak the form so that it would lend itself to recognize selfing in action. And I don't know if I have a question there. And I know you've done lots of workshops, but I don't know if you have any comments about, I don't know, is there a way to refine the 4-step process to include selfing in a more direct way? I've been wrestling with that a little bit in my own work.
Well, I probably will never do anything like that, but if someone else does, to me, it's more the recognition of the idea and this, you know, and seeing it in action, and then just applying it to the beautiful way of life we have, the 12 steps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I feel. That's why we're hoping here, this could be a primer. And then when you just look at just the disowning of being the doer of the resentments and the fear and the harms done to others in the pursuit of what you want, that spirit, just to do that, will produce its own effects with the same system. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't feel like I want to change.
Like one of the people I've been working with, I suggested instead of saying how has what about my resentments? How do why am I resenting so-and-so? I thought I suggested to them, well, you could look at it and say, why is self resenting so-and-so? Kind of put it like at arm's length a little bit to help get the sense of it's not me.
See, the thing is, bro, yeah, I like that, and then I don't in a way, because to me, the sense will imbue its own information into everything you read. If you get the sense of selfing, instead of trying to provoke the getting the sense of selfing.
Yeah. What comes first? Yeah.
To me, the first would be you're getting a sense of something, and then that view illuminates shit that you used to see in a different way. I don't think we have to change this stuff. You'll see it in a different way, I feel. And I feel this platform is sufficient to produce the interest in questioning the identification as self. I do. And then the way of life is, I feel, completely sound. And you just bring in the vision to that and try, instead of trying to produce the vision through the activity, you bring the vision into the activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. But go ahead, give it a shot.
Yeah.
I'm too much of a sense of a slacker to create it. But it's really, this is how it worked with me. I had a sense of things, and then it saw different meaning in the same structure that I've lived under, which is recovery. Yeah.
Right.
So that's where I'm coming from. That's how it worked with me.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So in other words, instead of finding it in the process, you bring it to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the process doesn't have to be completely like geometrically, mechanically, quantum physically calibrated. It can just be this beautiful 12-step program, and you can bring a whole new life into that. Yeah.
Yeah, that comes first. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, to me, that's how it's worked with me. So, and I feel this is sufficient to give people a working understanding so that they can look at their own, what they're hearing in their head, maybe in a different way, and see how it shakes out. Yeah. And and if the grace is there, and it's going to open up some nice vistas, VISTA. Yeah.
Right.
You'll see a lot more. Now, there won't be more seeing. There's plenty of seeing, but you'll see more. Yeah. So I love this platform. I think it works. And then we have the whole, let's say, scaffolding of the design for living. Nothing has to change there. Just bring in a different possibility. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I'm also open the other way too. But I just know I'm not going to. Yeah.
Well, I'll keep scrabbling away at it and see what comes up.
Yeah. 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 Great, Gary. Great. At least, I mean, how we've tried to be free as it. Well, a lot of us, we try to do it with drugs and everything else, alcohol. It hasn't worked ultimately. And so this is just a whole new way of seeing it. I don't think it's hard. We're not like, having to move your eyes to the back of your head. And it's just, I mean, I feel like we have all the evidence already amassed in our own lives to see this. I don't think it's just pointing something out that may be so obvious it's not noticed. Yeah, just pointing it out. And I have such faith in the message, really, and the power that's involved. I feel all you need to do is to consistently point it out, and sooner or later the person starts seeing it. Yeah. And then they're off and running. And I hope they have a life much lighter than they would have had. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I'll get a Christmas card every 10 years or something. Who knows? You know, a hearty handshake. Yeah. All right.
Thanks,
Anyone?
Gary.
There's some other folks have their hand.
Yeah, we got Corey. I'm asking you to unmute, Corey. Oh, try it again.
Oh, did I work?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, my name's Corey. I'm new to this meeting, so happy to be here today. Corey, alcoholic. Don't know if we have to introduce ourselves like that, but I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. I just have a quick question. How can self then come in and say that, like, I got this, like I'm getting what you're saying, and then it's just self again? Like,
No, the thing is, honey, there can be a getting of it, and then the self will claim to be the one who got it. So it
right.
self doesn't take anything away other than when it steals it. Yeah. So this is just not so. In other words, the lamp is going to be there, even though it attempted to steal it. Yes, if you have the eyes to see it. Yeah. So this.
So how do you know it's not just self again then? Like, is there like a?
Yeah, sooner or later you're going to get the flavor of it. There'll be mistakes made and stuff, but then you'll start. It's almost like another frequency will show a consistency in the life static, and you'll come to have faith in that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's just an idea. Of course, the head wants to drown it in the tub, but it does, because if you look at just like on a sociological way, it's generally believed that most people leave AA at the 4th step and the 9th step. Yeah. So now if you look at it as a parasitical thing has taken you over, and the parasitical thing, its camouflage is you're identified as it. Yeah. So you don't know, you don't even ever get to the possibility of throwing it off. You think you're it throwing other things off. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It has you pretty much paralyzed. And I don't believe this parasitical movement, let's call it self, wants you to do an inventory of your role in things. You're going to see its role in things. Truly. Yeah. It does not want you to do the 4th column of the inventory, see your role, because you're going to see, even when it says what your role looks like in the Joe and Charlie in the big book, there's the word self in 2 of the 4 things: self-centeredness, self-seeking and frightened, selfish, and then inconsiderate and dishonesty, which are just attributes of selfishness. So basically, even in our role in things, it's all self's role. Look, two out of the 4 are self. It says self-centeredness and self-seeking and frightened. I mean, how obvious. Knowing it or not, they basically displayed the real role of self in it, in the 4th column. Follow the instruction. Look at it. We look at where were we selfish, self-seeking, and frightened. That's not you. Yes. If you're following this message, self is what has defeated us. Yeah, there you go. How did it defeat us? Self-centeredness, self-seeking, and frightened. There you go. Yeah. So I don't believe it likes to be noticed, and therefore a lot of people, because people love taking other people's inventories. It's like they don't have problem with inventory at all. They love it. They do it like in a minute. Yeah, but when it comes to taking their inventory, it's like hemming and hawing, because the parasite doesn't want you to see you're rolling things because you'll see it's rolling things. That's my premise. Yeah. And step 9's the same thing. One of the greatest planks of the bondage of self is to the past. Yeah. It doesn't really want you to be free from the past, because it goes there to recollect and remember you as self quite a lot. So basically, when you make the amends, you get freed from self. And that's how you feel. You feel like, hey, I feel like I'm finally showing up in my own life. Exactly. Yeah, because something else had been showing up as you in your own life. And its strategy was avoid shit at all costs. Yeah. So if I upset somebody in California, I'm going to move to Idaho. Yeah. These are insane fucking strategies. Yeah. They're not coming from you. They're coming from the parasite. It doesn't want you to look at you because you'll see it with the right understanding. Yeah, I do not believe the right understanding concerning the exact nature of the wrong was clearly given in the big book of AA. I don't. Yeah. And it says, this power is going to constantly reveal itself to us, and people later on are going to add on to this. Well, here we are adding on to it. We're giving you a diagnosis of the exact nature of the wrong. Check it out. If you don't like it, far out. I don't care, really. I don't. If you like it, great. I don't care that way either. I'm in a position of neutrality. I don't have a dog in the hunt because I realized what it was like with having dogs in the hunt. It didn't work out. So I've been completely neutralized if you get it or not. I like you too, but hey. Yeah. So there you go. I can't do it any clearer for today. Maybe tomorrow I'll be clearer. But I mean, at least I attempt to present it as clear as it can possibly be through this little defective, pipe. But I mean, when I'm hearing it, it sounded pretty fucking clear the last 5 minutes. So there you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Corey. Anyone else want to come in? I think this person's a Zoom bomber, Paul. Peter Schnaz or Shands, but he has his hand up. We can
I don't
see.
think he's the bomber.
No?
No.
Okay.
He's been
Then
here
wait
before.
a while. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think so.
I'm not a bomber.
Oh, great.
I remember him.
Cool.
Sorry
Hey,
for being
Peter.
late. Yeah. And I just, I don't want to feel like I'm stepping over anybody speaking, but it just this point just really, I can really relate to it, and I feel like I need to expose something here because on exactly this, I see like something doesn't want to get clear, and it's like, I went through the steps many times, and on exactly this, like, I don't feel like I ever had a proper understanding. And it's like, for me, what started coming in the last 24 hours, and it's just so little, it's like a sliver of light seems to be coming into my normal perception of things. And it's like, I'm normally playing God. I don't think I'm playing God. I really think I have a good idea on how to help, but I never have evidence of it, but I still keep on that same trajectory. And like this pain just keeps kind of, how do you say, expanding inside. Yeah, like this. And it's like, and I know the last time we spoke, you were saying like surrender, and it's like something is like, oh, we can't surrender. Things aren't working out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't, my video was off. Sorry about that. And it's like I realize, like, I feel like I can't surrender because there's so many problems I feel like I have to solve, but I'm recognizing that all my efforts to try and solve any of these problems doesn't work. And yet I find myself in this bafflement, real bafflement, because like, no matter how hard I try, any of these problems that I seem to be perceiving accurately, I never really see evidence that I'm making things better. And it's like, Yeah, and it's like I want to be a part of the solution. I desperately we want to be a part of the solution. Like I can't bear another day of just feeling like I'm part of the problem. It's so excruciating because it's just unrelenting, and it's just and I yeah, and I just this
Yeah.
you know,
Hey,
I'm-
Peter, can
yeah,
I just jump in a second? So
yeah,
right now, to me, you're illuminating or illustrating the dilemma of powerlessness. Yes.
yes,
So
yes,
the head is acting as if it can wield something that can change things, and it doesn't want to face up to the fact that it hasn't been able to. So
yeah,
it keeps on keeping on, but it's the dilemma of powerlessness is just mixing up power or powerlessness. Because if you admit that you're outmatched and you are powerless, you're not going to experience powerlessness. You're going to experience power. Yeah. You only experience powerlessness when you're exerting power you don't have, or something tries to exert power it doesn't have. Then you experience frustration, as you're sharing now, and this dilemma, I've got to do this. All this comes from the unclarity about the dilemma of powerlessness. Yeah. Let's just get it clear and clean. One day you're outmatched, or as you're fucked or whatever. And you can be convinced of that. And then there's a moving on. Yeah. You can actually get into a state of surrender. Yeah. So you don't have to keep falling into this dilemma of powerlessness and then having to surrender when the shit really hits the fan. You stay surrendered because you've been convinced of the dilemma of powerlessness. This is why it's presented in the book. Even though they stopped saying being convinced after a few steps, but it's the primary requirement is being convinced of what they're describing as an alcoholic is, or an addict. To be convinced, yes. And in that being convinced, there's a new possibility shows up. So I feel power in that state of admittance of powerlessness. That's how it works for me. Yeah. Who would have thunk? The head didn't think that way. So this is what happens. Shit's going on. The head's still trying to figure it out, paste it, to do this and do that. And now there's a soothing BAL bomb of a sense of I'm in good hands. Yeah. And there's going to be a loss of interest in that emphasis of I've got to do this and that. And there's going to be a gaining of interest that I'm outmatched. And then the whole board game looks different. Yes. The whole game board looks different. Not because the game board changed. You did. You changed. Yes. So yeah, bro, you're fucked in that way. Yeah. To me, that's a hallelujah with the right point of view. Yeah. I'm outmatched. Yeah. And so these things of being convinced.
Can I say something here?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I first came into AA when I was like 30 years ago, and I really felt fucked. Yeah, like I felt so fucked. And then I had this like mini awakening in the 90s where a light came out of a tree. I was like 6 years sober, and it was like I lost all reference of me. Yeah. And it was like my schedule. I didn't care about my schedule, didn't care about my future. It was just, I found myself struck being able to see such awe in the people I encountered. And then in that space, words came out of me. And now that left, but there's something using that as a reason to enforce what it's doing that doesn't work. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, of course, because the head, anything it comes in contact with, it claims for its own ends. It's mechanical. It's not, see, that which defeated you isn't whatever schematics you have about your nature, it doesn't have that nature. Yeah, it's a different beast altogether. Yeah. And I don't see a parasitical movement seeing a win-win situation. It's a win-lose situation. If the parasite's winning, you're losing. I don't think it's going to become a service animal. I don't think it's going to become your amigo.
So this notion of like, because this is, I was talking with Vlad and
Oh, Vlad.
Vlad, yeah.
Oh,
That's
my
how-
friend Vlad. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Good person to talk to.
yeah, and it like something came up with like, this notion of trying to play God, yeah, like something's in there trying to redeem itself to prove it can solve things. But every time there's actually been experience of something solving things, I can't take credit for it. Yeah. Like I look back at that and like there was no me there. There was no sense of an identity doing that. I don't know what was doing it. It was like using me. Yeah. Like I can't say, I could never claim
But
it.
let me stop here, Peter. But on the opposite side, your head is taking credit for all the failures.
Yeah.
Why can you see all the successes are not of you? Why can't that be applied to the other aspect, which burrows deeper into being you? Don't you see it's like completely not based on any accuracy. Yeah. We're willing to give all credit to that power that's doing whatever it is doing through me, but we're not pinning the fucking tail on the donkey when we're looking at the lower power or the previous employer. Yeah.
No, I'm always the one. I don't. Yeah, it's like I'm always the shitty one, basically.
Oh yeah. So there you go. There it is. It's illustrated. You're not that. Yeah. Bring its drive to succeed and get everything organized and fail to step 6 and 7. I'm entirely ready to have this. And I mean, maybe it's sort of like giving up a colon, if you have 2 inches of the colon, it represents like the 15 feet of the colon. So you just go, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this reconfigured and just let it wheel how much it wants to reel in today, let it reel in and then go, hey, and I've asked this power to do it. Hallelujah. Then it's out of your hands. Yeah. You're like a Pontius Pilate in a good way. You've washed your hands of it and you've turned it over. This is the spirit of recovery. Yeah. The spirit of recovery isn't refining your managerial skills, is it? No. It's admitting that you're not managerial quality. But it's perfect how you can easily give gratitude to that idea of a higher power. But the other idea of the lower power, you've done everything. It's a duality, yeah? A duality of meaning. Yeah. Yeah. It's great, really, because every one of us here are a great illustration in this book of invitation, really. You can see it. Yeah. Peter, just take it easy today. Don't drink and don't use. And, if you start walking out to go save the world, have someone stop you and just fucking, paint the wall in your closet or something. Do something mundane and ordinary that your head can't really feast on. Really. Don't get into the business of saving the world. Your head, the world's not large enough to fit that size of your head.
That's what's been tormenting me actually, is that, back in that time, when that light came in, it was like, I felt like I witnessed some miracles happening. And then it's like, that's what I should be doing. Yet I'm unable to do it. And like, I'm such a failure. And it's like, and I can't escape. Yeah. Like I'm just living out of that, and it's extremely painful because there's this expectation of what I feel like should be happening here. No matter what I do, I don't feel like I'm getting.
See, the thing is, Peter, with what we're sharing, you're in a pre-escape from that which you can't escape from. You're not that. That's not the escape that comes after you're in it. The pre-escape is I'm not that. So then you lose interest in all that shit that's trying to provoke. I've got to do, you get disarmed and it almost says, you were wrestling with the cloud, which was giving it a form. When you stop wrestling, it dissipates. Yes. It dissipates. You lost interest in it, and then the cloud loses its form. It does. That's that's our role here. We're making mountains out of molehills. Yes, the head is. Yeah. When you see the head as a molehill, it won't be making that many mountains. It won't, really. If you see it as the mountain, it's going to make a lot of mountains out of molehills. But if you see it as a molehill, there ain't going to be that many mountain ranges you're going to be demanded to travel over. Yes, it's not going to be like a documentary of you.
That's what I want. Yeah, I want. Like, I feel like there's I got to climb Mount Everest, then I got to.
Oh, there you go. Now we're getting to it. The cherishing of self. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to be the one person.
Well, it's like somebody's trying to redeem all the failed, like all my failures.
You don't need no redemption. Yeah. You haven't been in the mental courtroom, you've already been convicted. You're just living out thousands of sentences, life sentences. We're taking your case outside that judicial system and bringing it to the court of light. It's all been null and voided. Yes. No more mea culpas. None of this. You're not that important to have a giant, you've been the scourge of life. No, you haven't. Then none of us have. None of us are gonna even, we're not. The best way for us is to be used. We've been used by, let's say, two aspects, some of us. We know one and we're finding out about the other. Yeah. I hope that's the situation. Now, part about finding out about the other is to know the other one. Yeah. Just to learn about self so that you see it's not you. And then there'll be a time, hopefully quickly, that you'll stop taking it so seriously. And it's really the death of self. The death of self is lack of relevance. It wants to be relevant. Yeah. And so you're going to redeem your relevance by overcoming these giant hurdles. Yeah. It's like it's a completely dualistic fucking card game. Yes, this is what happens. Yeah. You feel like you were really bad. Then you want to become really good. So when there's the shift from the sinner, you want to be a saint. Yeah, the head does. Yeah, and then sometimes we make enough fool of ourselves. We start preaching to people who don't want to hear it. We try to save people who don't want to be saved. It's all about us. Yeah, and then it falls. Hopefully it collapses. You see yourself without any clothes on. And then there's a real awakening. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro. We're here. You can come in, get a little bit of respite, chill out. And there's people afterward that stay. And this fever always breaks. Yes. Yeah. It's when it tells you, when it diagnoses itself and you get its prescriptions at the pharmacy, it prolongs the illness, so to speak. Yes. Don't listen to the fucking patient. It doesn't have any idea of what should be operated on. Listen to the doctor, the higher power. Stay on the operating table. Don't get up. Don't play doctor. Everything will work out. The operating table is designed for living. Just get the basic down. Don't drink or use. Yeah. Today. Yes. And then see where you're taken. Oh, like it says here in this reading, it's a beautiful reading because it talks about most of our lives has been after the fact. And this says here, these observations, which is all they're doing is talking about alcoholism, would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink. That's where you get brought back to. You get brought back to not starting. Yeah. And a lot of the shit that was very important now becomes academic because you've been delivered, so to speak. Yes? Yeah. So the not starting, you want to call it abstinence, not starting is it. That's the sweet spot. Yes. So you lose interest, and therefore you don't have to be the only way you become an expert in stopping is to try to do less harm with people who can't stay in not starting. Yeah. So you learn a lot about what you do. Like, all right, I know where the rehabs are, this and that. Yes. This is where most people, that's what the information they need the most, because they're not stopping. They're always starting to drink, and therefore they've got to have skillful means, try to keep it less harmful. They try to manage it. There's tons of rehabs and places to live. It's huge. Yeah. But not starting is a completely different ballpark. Yes. I'm in the habit of not starting for 35 years. Yeah, it's fucking pretty good. Yeah, it's a habit. It's like guardrails. I don't have to think about staying sober. I just act like I'm sober. Yeah, fantastic. This was brought about by a Design for Living. Yeah, I took suggestions, actions. I realized actions cannot be at the effect of thoughts, because the problem resides in the thoughts. So I need actions without thoughts, which are habits. So you just get in the right habits. That secures your sobriety. And then you get down to the exact natures of the wrong. Yeah. And get really the relief that was really not there, that caused the need to get loaded. Yeah. So, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Jacob.
Peter. We have one more person here, John Mick.
All right, John, come on in.
Hey, I really appreciate, my name is John, I'm an alcoholic, and I really appreciate being here and hearing about this, my enslavement to self. And it is paradoxical, but what I'm not catching is the solution. And the solution I find, would be as I turn it over in 3, and then, I'm kind of leveling pride as I'm doing that inventory, obviously. 6, I'm trying to give it over. 7, I'm asking God to remove the self, but I'm asking prescriptive, because it sounds to me like, a little bit like it's a moment of enlightenment coming from meditation, or those prayers. So I wonder prescriptively, what you would say to alleviating the self. What is it? The 12 steps? Is it me continuing to do 4 through 9 and 10 through 12? Or is there something I'm
we're
missing here?
hoping with all of that, armed with this understanding that we're sharing, which is self is a foreign agent, so to speak, or a parasitical movement or a demonic possession, just to see it as other will allow new ideas of what we call freedom to show up. And basically, you'll be on the path, will be in a weird way more correct, because you'll actually have a good understanding of the exact nature of the problem. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then 6 and 7, which are 2 of the working steps, probably will be the most worked steps after a while, because a lot of what's going to be revealed is what you're not. Let's say the self thing. And when that's revealed, you bring it to step 6 and 7 and ask that, because haven't you seen the power that, expresses through this movement of recovery? It has a quality of recycling, obviously. Yeah, it takes shit where you saw there was no value and gets great value out of it. Yeah. So basically, it's almost like a form of alchemy in a sense. So that's what happens. We recognize a lot of stuff, and then we bring it to 6 and 7 as almost like an alchemy, where that stuff that we only see it as, let's say, lead, yeah, through 6 and 7, there'll be a lot of gold extracted from that lead. Yeah. And that's going to enrich ourselves and others. So this is how I go with it. And I see a lot of deep patterns of the head in dreaming. And so when I wake up in the morning and I remembered a dream that I've had many, many, many times, the theme of it, I bring that to 6 and 7. And I ask that power to reconfigure this. So there's constantly more will be revealed. And so that chute of recycling it's that door doesn't need any oil. You've been opening in it. It's lubed up by use. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I feel it accentuates this idea of not being self. Yeah. Yeah. See, because a lot of stuff we've had going on, maybe we start seeing its false evidence, like the FEAR acronym, false evidence appearing real, but we may not see that what's receiving the false evidence appearing real is false evidence. The whole idea of Paul as a long-lasting, independent, separate thing is false. Yeah. So the false evidence, sometimes we recognize the false evidence, but we don't recognize the biggest false evidence, which is this idea of self as us. Yeah. To me, that's the biggest dose of self of false evidence. So I'm on the outlook of false evidence appearing real as false evidence appearing real. This is what I mean. Sometimes we miss, yes, we miss. It's sort of like Dracula will go on vampire hunts. Yeah. You miss the real Dracula in the house by, oh, I've had a lot of false evidence appear real. Well, why is it so it seems like a habit now, false evidence appearing real, because it's appearing real to false evidence. What else, how would evidence appear to false evidence? It would appear real. And then real evidence would appear to be false. Based on the false evidence being the receiver of the information, yes? Yes. So this is the switcheroo. You're trying, as false evidence, you're trying to be able to discriminate and discern between false evidence appearing real or not. That's impossible if you're taking yourself to be false evidence. It's not going to work. Yeah. So get down to the root. Is it false evidence that's trying to judge evidence as true or false? Yes. Oh, so I don't have to go through millions of files of evidence. I can just look at the one file and see it's not me. Yeah. I think it's much more efficient. Yeah. Yeah, we should record that part, Jacob. That would be a good little nugget to have.
Oh yeah, we're recording.
Yeah,
We'll
because
just timestamp
people
it.
get
We'll
into
have to throw it
false
out there.
evidence. They very rarely are sitting there questioning what's sitting here. Yeah, it's just taken to be so. And now we're going to have to give great judgment on all this shit that could be true or false. I mean, you could have a bias to the false side without knowing it. So you're always going to bet on the false to override the truth, because what? You're false evidence. Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny, you know. Oh, we want the umpire to call the strikes and balls. The guy's from New York. He grew up in New York. He's gonna call strike and balls for the Yankees, not the opposing team. He doesn't have to go to school how to strikes and balls. Just see the affiliation. It explains everything. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Let's get to it. Why fucking run around these bushes? If you run around a bush, there's going to be more bushes to run around. Question: who the hell's running around the bushes? That's false evidence. Appearing real. Where? Right where you are. Exactly. Right where you are. And this isn't about changing anything. You're not of that which takes false evidence to be real. You're not of that. You're of something else. This is not about the greatest Herculean task is going to convince this false evidence to only see truth in what appears. No, you just fucking bypass it because it's not you. Yeah. Let it keep having, and then all of its false evidence appear real instead of making CNN the worst factual news channel. It'll be a great Comedy Central. You'll fucking be laughing like crazy. You will all day because it's constantly seeing mountains and molehills. It's mechanical. This has nothing to do with you. We used to have one just to try to get the picture. So a guy, and then we'll end with this. I haven't used this in a long time. It just came up in my head. So this guy has a tumor on the side of his ribs. Yeah, let's say the right side. It's pretty big now. So he has to get his shirts tailored and shit like that. And it bulges out. So he tries to wear, he has a messenger bag, always wears it on his side. He's going to weird internet sites where people have tumors, hoping he can meet a woman who has one on the left and they can meet together the tumors. And, the whole thing is just living around, having a life built around this tumor because they haven't recognized it's not of them. The tumor could be removed. Yeah. And they won't get killed. It's not going to kill you if the tumor is removed. Yeah. You don't have to. But then now, when confronted with that answer, they have a lot of shirts tailored with that tumor. Their girlfriend's got another. So there's a lot of investment in life with a tumor. Even though he likes to bitch about it and everything else, he really doesn't want that tumor to go. Yeah. So there's cognitive dissonance. And so what needs to be cleared is that. First, see that the tumor is not you, and then see how much interest and value has been invested in the tumor, and realize and see that as clear as day, and move on to the operation. Let the tumor be fucking removed. Yeah. Give the shirts to Goodwill, and someone who has a tumor will find them. Whatever. Yeah. But this whole idea is based on thinking the tumor is of you. It's not of you. You can be free from that tumor. You can be free from this thing. Yes. It works with me. That's why. My head works with illustration, and this is how freedom was illustrated to me. Seeing self as foreign. That's how it was. That's how that little fucking rock was cracked. Because I was constantly trying to be free as that which was defeating me. It was just fucking unbelievable. Another form of slavery, gold chains instead of iron chains, but chains nonetheless. Then that was cracked, never changed. I've seen it since then. I was thoroughly convinced, just keep, yeah. And then shit, there was a news channel, got turned into Comedy Central, and instead of trying to save the world, I go to a thrift store and fucking buy a $3 fucking thing I don't need. There you go. Give myself purpose. I don't know how it will work for you, but it will work. Yeah. And I don't know how. I know how it's played out in this event. Yeah. So. Yeah. But I have been traveling lighter for years and years and years. And it never turned out to be any way I could have ever thought, which is great. And it really is completely determined by loss of interest, to tell you the truth. So if you jump into spirituality with a great interest in self, spirituality will probably be used to reinforce or strengthen that interest in self. You'll try to be a non-self as a self, let's say, yeah. But when there's a loss of interest, you'll really get across the board effect. You really will. You'll lose interest in a lot of stuff. Self-improvement, that's out the window. Trying to get into the moment, that's out the window. You've never been out of a moment. Yeah. Self has its own thing. Yeah. It has its own little game going on when a bigger game's afoot. So it wants to, do this, do that. Yeah. It says, hey, the only time you ever go out, you better wear that new shirt you bought on the Zoom. You know what I mean? So now it seems like it was a value, there was a value in it. You're wearing it. Yes. This is, you don't starve the fucking thing. The action figure has its needs, but they're not many really. And it can live with a beautiful word called enough. It can really live quite well there. Yeah, it's not about starving it. It's not me. It's just the action figure. It's like, I love my Toyota truck. I wasn't the Toyota truck. But I love the Toyota truck. I took care of it. I wasn't taking care of it because it was me. No, I like the Toyota truck. Yeah. So this idea, I have to die to the self. I'm not a believer in that. It's loss of interest. That's giving self too much credit. That's why I like to use the term selfing, but we speak in AA, which is self, but it's never became a self. It's all selfing. So the selfing talks as if you already are a self. That's its little magical trick. So when there's a listening to the head without any understanding, the head's talking to, you're already a historical fact, the idea of self. It's not talking like you're becoming one. You already are one. Yeah. Yeah. So that's selfing. And we play the role, or we're the imagination, or we're the picturing of self. By listening to the selfing, this is how self is pictured. Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, you have a lot of rude awakenings because the head, the main narrative loop of self is you're 19 years old, and then you confront a mirror and you're now 70, and you're sort of like, wow, there's a real gap between that narrative, and it just sort of rushes right over that. Oh, forget that. Put on those tight jeans, don't worry. It's hilarious, really. It doesn't know any better. You can't punish it. It doesn't know any better. Yeah. Yeah. So, yep. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Let's say goodbye and yeah. See, I'm probably going to go to the asylum before I go to heaven. So I'm going to be at some gate, and the people will be wearing white, but they won't be angels. No, I just hope they don't have Jello. I don't want Jello. No, I wonder if they'll give me gluten-free. All right, Dennis W. Nice to see you, my friend. Or if not my friend, he may hate me. I don't know. Dana, Zoom user. Nice to see you, Dana. Jacob, as always. Jacob, the message has landed. It came out, and yes.
Yeah, I was thinking false evidence can't appear real to the real, right? False evidence can only appear real to the unreal.
Exactly. That's why
Yeah.
we're the harbinger of all false evidence.
Love it.
It finds a port of welcome here. That's why would you want to go through all those files if you can just look at this? Yeah. Just tell the truth. Al Vegas, nice to see you, Al. John, Florida. Mickey, the matriarch of Madera, she holds court here every week. It's a pleasure to have her. Yeah. We got Warren. Nice to see you, Warren. Sean S. Richard H. Walter, the brother from another mother. Gary Clark up in Placerville. Tom in Texas. Tom is now in Texas. Wow. I'd reconsider that move, maybe. I don't know. Jason, nice to see you, bro. Corey, nice to meet you. Jane G from Mill Valley. She's close to my village here. Mia from down under, she's back in America. She's in the continental USA. Wow. Giselle, Las Vegas. Yes. Sally, nice to see you, Sally. Chris in Boston. Peter, nice to see you, Peter. Yeah. Kaiser, Minnesota, always a pleasure. Kaiser keeps showing up over all these years. Same thing with Lebowski. Lebowski resurfaces occasionally. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see who else we got. Richard H up in up near Placerville. I think I'm coming back up there in the end of May to in Auburn. Have an excuse to see Gary and everyone else. We've got James, Michael, the man behind the curtain. Hey, are you going to be there today, Michael, later?
Yeah, I'll see you in a little while, Paul.
Oh, great. So everyone, we have a meeting at 4:30 Pacific time also
So
today.
6:30.
4:30 Pacific time, and everyone's welcome. Annette, as always, Roman M. Yes, we have a date in Sicily. Yes. Oliver in Berlin. Nice to see you, Oliver. Warren, Jeffrey in Seattle. He's picking up eyes for those who have no eyes to see. Nina.
Hunter Fran.
Haley.
Hi, Paul.
Nina. Ali.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Paul.
I see you, hon. Christine, Kona. I think that's about it. Hey, listen. Thank you. That's a wonderful meeting, and I hope it was as good for you as it was for me.
It's great.
Thanks.